My name is Brianna Williams and I'm 29. If you'd asked me a year ago what my 30s would look like, I would have told you a neat bullet point future: buy a small place with a crooked lemon tree in the yard, adopt an old dog plan, a quietly extravagant road trip where the playlist is better than the scenery. I would have said those things confidently because I believed in us, in me and Harold Patterson, the man I'd shared 6 years with and a bed for 4. And then he started saying it. I love you, but I'm not happy. The first time we were scrolling engagement rings on my laptop, my savings folder opened like a held breath. He leaned away from the screen, pinched the bridge of his nose, and let the sentence fall between us like a glass we both refused to catch. I thought it was a bad day at work. I offered tea. I made soup. He kissed my forehead and said I was sweet. We didn't pick a ring. It didn't stop. Every time our future appeared, rent renewals, a friend's wedding, a Zillow tab. I shouldn't have opened at midnight. Harold would repeat it with microscopic variations. The words were the same. The effect was different. A cold draft under a door you forgot was there. I tried solutions like a person assembling furniture without the instructions. Couples therapy. He went twice, said the therapist was a little too focused on the past. Date nights. Less phone time. More phone time. Space. No space. I learned there are infinite ways to apologize for storms you didn't summon. 3 weeks ago, the thing with a name finally got a name. His phone buzzed in the bathroom while he was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I was folding laundry. The notification floated up clinical and cheerful Venmo Kayla C. for last night, worth every penny, as always. It read like a smirk. I stared until the letters blurred and the tile pattern under my feet stopped being a floor and became a net. I know what you're thinking. Boundaries. Privacy. Trust. I know because I chanted those words like beads on a string while I opened Venmo anyway. His feed was public. Kayla C. was a recurring guest star, tipping in emojis and euphemisms, always late at night. You're amazing. Can't wait for next time. Thanks for everything. My mouth tasted like pennies. In a movie, this is where the protagonist storms into the bathroom and hurls the phone into the sink. In real life, I sat on the end of the bed and tried to breathe without making a sound like grief might overlook me if I stayed still. The water stopped. Harold emerged in steam, and a towel-hair damp skin flushed with the kind of aliveness that mocked mine. Who's Kayla? I asked. My voice came out steady like I'd been rehearsing. He blinked. A pause. Too short for a lie, too long for the truth. Oh, from work. We grab drinks sometimes. Team stuff. Every week, sometimes twice. Brianna, why are you being weird? He laughed soft and managerial. You know how the app captions look. People write jokes. I let it go. Correction, I pretended to. I started looking. The late nights became later. The gym bag acquired new outfits I'd never see in our bedroom. Yoga suddenly, but only the kind that required specific leggings. When he texted, his phone tilted away from me as if I were a bright window. 2 weeks passed like a hallway that narrows the longer you walk it. At dinner, cheap wine, that good bread with the salted butter we were talking about renewing our lease. I had color-coded numbers. He had a shrug. Then he said it again, almost kindly. I love you, but I'm not happy. I know, I said. He looked surprised, maybe that I used the present tense. I'm just going through something, he added. For 8 months, it slipped out of me like a shard. Why are you like this, he asked. Not angry, inconvenienced. Like what, a woman who's supposed to marry a man who keeps telling her he's unhappy and won't tell her why. I said it calmly, which made it worse. He blinked fast and reached for his water. He started crying, real tears. It would have broken me once. I reached for his hand. He flinched, like my fingers were hot. Maybe we need a break, he whispered. The sentence rearranged the air. Maybe we do, I said. My voice surprised us both. Life's too short to be unhappy. He froze the way people do when they realize you've stepped off the script. Wait, Brianna, that's not what We've been talking, I said, for months. I'll start looking for a place tomorrow. 4 days later, my half of the closet was empty. My books in boxes, a copy of our lease in my bag, with my name neatly removed. Harold texted constantly. You misunderstood. It wasn't like that. Can we talk? I love you. Please come home. The words looked like him, but didn't sound like him in my head anymore. Here's the part where the camera should pull back and show you the bigger thing. You missed the shadow moving at the edge of the frame. Kayla isn't from work. She's Harold's personal trainer. The one he pays for specialized sessions because the gym is too crowded. I know because Kayla's boyfriend, a stranger until yesterday, found my Instagram through Harold's photos and sent me everything: screenshots, messages, photos, proof that the captions were the tip of a much more expensive iceberg. Turns out Kayla has multiple clients who all think they're the special exception. I forwarded the screenshots to Harold. Not a fight, not a threat, just the truth gathered plainly and sent back where it belonged. "This isn't what it looks like," he replied. I laughed. I didn't mean to. It just burst out a sound with edges. "I didn't sleep with her," he wrote. "It was flirting." I was confused. "You were pressuring me about the future." "There is a video, Harold. Not a rumor, not a jealous dream. A video." "You don't understand," he typed. "I'm trying to figure out what I want." Well, I wrote back, "Now you can figure it out with Kayla, if she has time between sessions." He called 37 times that night. On the 38th, I blocked him. I wish the story ended here, the clean cut, the courageous walk away. But cuts don't stay clean when people bleed money and pride. We'd been living together for years. Shared bills, a joint card for emergencies, the kind of tangle that lets love be efficient and later lets grief be expensive. I slept on my sister's couch and stared at the ceiling fan while the apartment we'd chosen together kept spinning without me. Somewhere in the middle of the night, a thought arrived, small and insistent: check everything. The truth is, I already knew the next disaster had a paper trail. I just didn't know it had my name on it. And no, this isn't about revenge. It's about records. Because people don't just rewrite the past with words. They do it with receipts. And if you're reading this at 2:47 a.m., the way I wrote it, you already know the worst part isn't what they did. It's how carefully they planned to make it look like you did it to them. When people say closure, they imagine doors. I've learned closure is more like paperwork. Never done full of signatures you didn't consent to. The morning after I blocked Harold, my phone lit up anyway. New number. "You misunderstood," the text said. "I didn't mean for things to get that way. Please talk to me." I stared at it until the notification faded. It wasn't the words. It was the arrogance underneath them, like he still owned my attention by default. By the end of the week, he'd sent a dozen more from different numbers. Each one shorter, sharper. "You're overreacting. Don't ruin everything. You'll regret this." The grammar decayed in sync with his image of himself. But that same week, Kayla's boyfriend messaged me again. His name was Adam, and he had the voice of someone who'd already stopped expecting disbelief. "I'm sorry to drag you into this," he wrote, "but you deserve to know. I think he's done this before." He attached more screenshots, payments, voice notes, photos of Harold leaving Kayla's apartment, not the gym. The timestamps lined up with nights Harold claimed he was catching up on work or grabbing drinks with the team. Adam's final message hit harder than the proofs. "You're not the only one. There's at least 3 of us, me, you, and 2 other women Kayla's been taking money and attention from." He wasn't her only client, just her favorite type. It wasn't just infidelity, it was commerce. A rotating market of validation disguised as workouts. I sat on my sister's floor laptop open, scrolling through Harold's Venmo feed like an autopsy. Same pattern training private session, thanks for last night. Every message an echo. Every emoji a smirk. My chest hurt. Not the heartbreak kind, the kind you get when your reality gets redrafted mid-sentence. I could have confronted him again, but confrontation is for people who think they can still fix something. I was done fixing. Instead, I wrote him a single message from my last unblocked number. "Forwarding you some receipts. Thought you might want to see how professional your trainer really is." He didn't respond for hours. When he finally did, it was textbook denial. "This isn't what it looks like. She's lying. You're making a fool of yourself, Brianna." I laughed aloud in my sister's kitchen. The sound startled even me. "I didn't sleep with her," he insisted, as if that distinction salvaged anything. "It was just flirting. I was confused. You were pressuring me about the future." Pressure. That word again. It's what people say when commitment feels like gravity, something natural they want to pretend is unfair. I sent one last text. "You pressured me too, Harold," into silence. And I left it there. Weeks passed. I thought quiet would follow, but quiet never does when you share a lease and an internet connection. First, I got a call from the landlord. "Hey, Brianna, just wanted to check you and Harold splitting the rent this month, or should we expect delay?" I'd already taken my name off the lease, personally delivered the form. I told him so. He sighed. Then he didn't file it. He said you were still there. My pulse quickened. Harold was keeping me on record as if I hadn't left, as if the apartment still tied me down by paper. Then the group chats started. Mutual friends asking questions that sounded rehearsed. "Did you really cheat on him first?" He said you took money from his account before leaving. We just want your side. My side, he'd already written it. He told everyone I'd abandoned him without reason, that I was controlling, that I manipulated finances to trap him. He flipped every truth inside out and handed it to the audience. And I stayed silent, because people expect noise from guilt, and I refused to perform that. But karma doesn't need my commentary. It writes its own posts. 3 days later, Adam's girlfriend, Kayla's other client, went public. A furious Facebook expose warning local trainer, Kayla C., scamming clients, emotional and financial manipulation. Attached were screenshots, photos, and yes, Harold's name. That post spread faster than wildfire on dry gossip. By the end of the night, Harold's mother had commented, "Is this true?" The next day, a local blog picked it up. Unlicensed trainer exploits clients for money and affection. By the afternoon, Harold's office HR called me. They'd seen the story. He'd been suspended. The optics were bad, they said. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I shouldn't have answered. Brianna. His voice hoarse. You happy now? You ruined me. I didn't post it, I said quietly. You did that yourself. Don't pretend to be innocent. Then stop pretending to be the victim. Silence. A soft exhale. Then before hanging up, he muttered something that froze the air. You don't get to walk away from 6 years. You'll see. It was the first time he sounded sober in weeks, and it terrified me more than all the yelling combined. I hung up and blocked that number too. For a second I stood there, phone still in my hand, realizing that what scared me wasn't his threat, it was how certain he sounded. Because Harold didn't bluff, he planned. And the thing about people who plan, they don't stop at heartbreak. They start drafting revenge. The next threat didn't arrive with shouting or broken glass. It came in the form of a fraud alert. Suspicious activity detected, the message read from my credit card company. I opened it, expecting a glitch. Then my breath stopped. $3,000. A jewelry store. My old joint account. Harold. He was still an authorized user, something I hadn't yet removed, because my focus had been on healing, not housekeeping. Big mistake. In less than 12 hours, he'd hit 3 other stores, handbags, shoes, a new phone. Every receipt looked like the wish list of someone trying to build a new life using the ashes of the old one. I called the company immediately. He's my ex, I said. He's using the card without my consent. The agent's voice was polite, robotic. Since he's an authorized user, it's not technically fraud. You're liable for the charges. I laughed, a brittle sound that cracked midair. You're telling me I'm paying for my ex-boyfriend's shopping spree? I'm sorry, ma'am. Legally, yes. When I hung up, my reflection stared back from the black screen. I looked like someone halfway between fury and disbelief. That night, my phone rang again. Cody, a mutual friend. His voice was uneasy. Brianna, I don't know what's going on between you and Harold, but he's saying some serious stuff. What stuff? He said you drained 50 grand from his inheritance. That you stole it before leaving. My pulse roared in my ears. 50 grand. He doesn't even have 50 grand. He's showing people screenshots of an account. Send me one. When I opened the screenshot, I recognized the account design immediately, our joint bank's interface. But it wasn't ours. The numbers, dates, all fake. Sloppily fake. He'd taken an old statement and edited it. He was crafting a new story. I called Jessica, my lawyer friend. She answered on the first ring. I told her everything, the credit card, the rumor, the doctored screenshots. She was quiet for a moment, then said, He's building a narrative, Brianna. Financial abuse. Emotional manipulation. He'll make himself the victim, probably prepping for a civil claim or a defamation suit to intimidate you. For money that doesn't exist, doesn't matter. It's about perception. He just needs enough people to believe it did. Then what do? I asked. You document everything, every transaction, every text, every email, right now. I spent the next 48 hours with coffee eye bags and spreadsheets, bank statements, Venmo logs, screenshots, old texts. I found things I'd missed, the $1, $200 transfer to Crystal S. 2 years ago with the message, "Thanks, babe." Cash withdrawals every Friday night during his supposed book club. A hidden savings account with $15,000 in it, registered solely under his name. He had money. He just wanted to make it look like I took it. Then came the discovery that turned my stomach cold. Among the statements, I found insurance records from his father's life policy. Payments to Kayla's fitness company dated a full year back. Not 8 months, not recent a year. He'd been seeing her long before the "I love you, but I'm not happy" began. The unhappiness was never a feeling, it was a setup. I forwarded every document to Jessica. She called after reading them, and the sound of her voice told me she'd already pieced together the bigger picture. "Brianna, he's been scripting this for months," she said. Every fight, every phrase, he was creating a paper trail. "But he's sloppy. Keep all of it. We'll use it." It was comforting, but also horrifying to realize your entire relationship had been pre-production for a crime drama you didn't audition for. Meanwhile, Harold was busy online. Posts about surviving financial abuse, about starting over with nothing. He even launched a GoFundMe with a teary selfie captioned, "Rebuilding," after years of manipulation. I almost admired the consistency. He knew how to play a narrative. The comments were predictable. "You're so brave. Men get abused too. Stay strong, King." He raised $700 before someone reported it for fraud. Kayla had gone silent, vanished from socials. Harold, though, doubled down. Then one night, while scrolling through old texts for evidence, I noticed something strange. A name that kept reappearing months before Kayla ever existed, Marissa. Marissa, as in his ex from college, the one who'd broken his heart and taught him trust issues. In those old messages, he wasn't grieving her. He was talking to her. The phrases were intimate, urgent. "Once I'm free, we can finally start fresh." He's getting suspicious. Just a little longer. It hit me like vertigo. Kayla wasn't the beginning. She was cover fire. I thought about calling Jessica, but it was midnight. Instead, I stared at my ceiling, one thought looping like static. If Harold was this careful in building a fake story, what happens when he realizes he's losing control of the real one? Because people like him don't collapse, they escalate. And the next person to call me wouldn't be a friend. It would be his mother. When Mrs. Patterson called, her voice trembled the way porcelain sounds right before it shatters. "Brianna, we need to talk, in person." For 6 years, she'd been like a second mother to me, the kind who remembered your coffee order, who texted after interviews just to say, "You've got this." So when she said in person, I knew something irreversible was coming. We met at a small cafe downtown. The air smelled of burnt espresso and panic. She looked smaller somehow, eyes rimmed red, a trembling hand clutching an envelope. "Harold's not well," she began, voice barely above a whisper. I stayed silent. She pushed the envelope across the table. "Open it." Inside, printed screenshots, texts between Harold and Marissa. Dated a year and a half ago. Marissa: "I can't keep doing this. She's getting suspicious." Harold: "Just a little longer, baby. Once we have the money from my breakup, we'll start over." Marissa: "What if she finds out about the account, Harold? She won't. I'm too careful." I read the lines twice, 3 times. My fingers went numb. The separate savings account, the inheritance money he accused me of stealing, wasn't for us. It was his and Marissa's escape fund. I looked up. "How did you get this?" Her eyes glistened. "He left his old laptop at my house. I was going to donate it. I found everything." "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. She swallowed hard. "Because she's my son. But what he's doing is wrong. And I won't let him destroy you just because he can't own his choices." The words carried a grief heavier than any apology. "There's more," she added, sliding a second envelope toward me. "Marissa's married, has a child. Harold knows. He doesn't care. They were waiting for her divorce settlement. But her husband found out about Harold and about you. He's filing for divorce, and he's taking everything." The irony landed like a cruel joke. Harold's dream life, built on deceit, was crumbling before he could cash it in. "I didn't come here to ruin him," she said. "I came because you need to protect yourself. He's furious and he's desperate. That's a dangerous mix." Desperate people rewrite history fast. I could already feel the edits being made. I thanked her quietly, though the word felt small for what she'd just done. She reached across the table and took my hand. "You were the best thing that ever happened to him, Brianna. I just hope someday he understands what that means." When I got home, my phone was buzzing. Notifications. Dozens of them. Harold had posted a long status. "Some people pretend to love you just to ruin your life when you're vulnerable. Be careful who you trust." Photos of us, old vacations, anniversaries, accompanied by vague captions about abuse control and surviving toxicity. The comments section was a public trial. "So proud of you for speaking out. She didn't deserve you. Men can be victims too." And there I was, silent, invisible, rewritten again. I called Jessica. She didn't even let me finish explaining. "He's escalating. We're filing for a protective order. I'll handle the paperwork." We gathered the evidence, the midnight phone calls, the credit card fraud, the screenshots from his mother, the threats I'd dismissed as venting. The next morning, we stood before a judge. He was an older man, patient eyes but sharp instincts. He scanned the fake texts Harold had allegedly created me, threatening him, and compared them with the real ones Jessica had compiled. After 5 minutes, he looked up. "This is fabrication," he said flatly. "You're granted a temporary protective order, effective immediately." It was surreal hearing the words, seeing them stamped on paper. Legal proof that I wasn't crazy. The officer served Harold at his gym in front of everyone, including, ironically, his new trainer. I didn't witness it, but Jessica described it later with grim satisfaction. He tried to play calm, said it was a misunderstanding. The officer just handed him the paper and walked away. That night, Mrs. Patterson called again. Her voice cracked. "He knows I gave you the laptop. He's furious. He said I betrayed him." "You did the right thing," I said softly. Maybe she whispered, "But I don't think he's done." And she was right. 2 days later, Harold posted again, this time not about me, but about her. Blood isn't always thicker than water. Some parents choose sides. He was unraveling publicly now, burning every bridge that used to make him human. I didn't comment. Didn't even click. But I started sleeping with the lights on. Because it's one thing to be slandered online. It's another to realize the person you once loved now views you as an enemy worth destroying. And just when I thought the chaos had peaked, Jessica called again. Her tone was cautious, deliberate. "He's filing a civil claim, Brianna. Emotional distress, financial abuse. It's a scare tactic, but we're going to end this properly." I wanted to laugh, to scream, to disappear. Instead, I opened my laptop and began sorting evidence again. Dates, amounts, screenshots, receipts. Because the truth, I was learning, doesn't defend itself. You have to document it. And this time I wasn't just fighting to clear my name. I was fighting to reclaim the story he'd stolen. Courtrooms are not built for closure. They're built for records, words flattened into exhibits, emotions translated into timestamps. When I walked into that room, my hands were shaking, but not from fear, from fury held too long. Harold sat on the opposite bench, polished and pitiful, in a navy suit I once bought him for a job interview. His lawyer whispered in his ear like she was feeding a puppet its lines. Jessica leaned close to me and murmured, "Stay quiet unless I tap your hand. Let him perform. Then we'll show the receipts." He performed. Oh, he performed. He spoke of 6 years of emotional volatility, financial control, and psychological manipulation. He teared up right on cue, talking about how I'd isolated him from friends. His lawyer held up screenshots, the fake ones, and read fabricated texts aloud in that calm, righteous tone lawyers practice in mirrors. Each word landed like acid on my tongue. I wanted to scream, but Jessica's hand tapped mine once lightly. Wait. When it was her turn, Jessica stood with that terrifying grace of someone who knows they're holding a grenade made of truth. "Your Honor," she said, "we have the original, unaltered messages, metadata included." She handed the judge a thick folder, crisp with precision. "We also have financial records, notarized copies of Venmo transactions, insurance payments, and an affidavit from the defendant's own mother." The judge's brow furrowed, Harold's color drained. Jessica continued, her voice steady, surgical. "We can prove Mr. Patterson fabricated screenshots, tampered with statements, and attempted to file a fraudulent claim. Additionally, Exhibit D shows payments made from his account to one Kayla Carter under the description private sessions worth every penny over an 8-month span, some overlapping with the dates of his alleged distress." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Harold stared straight ahead, expression locked, jaw twitching. Jessica laid the final blow gently. "Finally, Your Honor. Exhibit F text messages between Mr. Patterson and Ms. Marissa L., predating the breakup by over a year. They outline a plan to leave once the money clears, including reference to a joint savings account. This proves motive financial, not emotional." The judge turned slowly toward Harold. "Do you have an explanation?" His lawyer stammered something about context. Harold opened his mouth closed. It opened it again. Nothing came out. The judge's gavel sounded like thunder. "Case dismissed. Any further action of this nature will be considered malicious prosecution." And just like that, months of gaslighting threats and legal letters collapsed into silence. I thought I'd feel triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. Jessica squeezed my shoulder. "It's over, Brianna." I nodded. But deep down, I knew people like Harold don't stop when they lose. They pivot. 2 weeks later, the pivot arrived. Harold's ex-lover's husband, Marissa's spouse, filed for divorce. His lawyer subpoenaed all of Harold's communications as evidence of alienation of affection, Apparently, that's still a legal claim in our state. Jessica smirked when she told me. Consider it poetic symmetry, she said. The fallout was swift. Harold's lawyer withdrew. The Bar Association opened an investigation into his fabricated exhibits. He tried to represent himself, showed up in court in a crumpled shirt, shaking, muttering about conspiracies. Marissa didn't even attend. Her lawyer handled everything. Harold was ordered to pay restitution for damages to the marriage. He sold his car to cover part of it. Meanwhile, Kayla, the trainer, reappeared briefly online, posting photos from Florida. New clients, new motivation quotes. Her comments were full of local women warning each other, check credentials before you trust someone with your time and heart. Karma, it seemed, didn't need my help. Mrs. Patterson called again. Her voice was soft, almost hollow. He's angry with me. Says I betrayed him for you. You didn't betray him, I said. You saved him from what he was becoming. He won't see it that way, she whispered, but maybe someday he will. I told her to take care of herself, to block his number if she had to. She said she couldn't. He was still her son. And I understood. Some bonds aren't meant to be severed, only contained. When we hung up, I sat by my window for a long time, watching dusk spill over the city. It hit me then, the irony of it all. He spent months trying to make me look unstable, and now he was the one unraveling in public. But justice isn't cinematic. There's no applause, no closing credits. Just a line on a court document that says case dismissed. And an exhausted woman finally learning how to breathe without explaining herself. That night, I deleted his last remaining number, the one I'd kept just in case. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was earned. Freedom didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like morning light on a clean table. It felt like a phone that didn't buzz. 2 months had passed since the final court date. I'd moved into a small apartment top floor. Soft yellow walls. One squeaky window that whistled when it rained. Every corner smelled faintly of paint and relief. I'd started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I finally understood how quietly damage roots itself. Dr. Nguyen, my therapist, once said, "Healing isn't peace, Brianna. It's maintenance." And I think she was right. Every day I swept the dust of him out of small places, a playlist I used to love, a recipe we made, once the urge to check if he'd posted something new. Jessica called one morning, her voice lighter than it had been in months. Good news. The court closed his file officially. He's barred from filing anything similar for at least 2 years. I exhaled so deeply it felt like exorcism. Thank you for everything. You did the work, she said. I just carried the folders. The practical aftermath took weeks. I paid off the $5,000 credit card bill from his spree. Mrs. Patterson insisted on reimbursing me in cash, quietly sliding an envelope across my doorstep with a note, "For peace of mind, from a mother who owes you both apology and closure." I cried, holding that note, because it wasn't just money. It was accountability, and that's rarer than love. Harold, I heard, had moved back in with her, working 2 part-time jobs under a probationary contract. The trainer, Kayla, had vanished again. Rumor said she'd started fresh under another name in Miami. And Marissa? Her husband's divorce went through. She got the house full custody and a settlement large enough to rebuild. Every player got what they'd sown. Meanwhile, I began rebuilding something smaller but sturdier myself. I found a new job in a design firm. Nothing glamorous, but creative enough to remind me who I was before being rewritten into someone else's storyline. I got used to dinners for 1 long walks home, budgeting spreadsheets that made sense. For the first time in years, I could track my money and my emotions without flinching. One evening, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. "I'm sorry." The message was short, unpunctuated, and familiar. I didn't reply. Not because I hated him, but because I didn't owe him my response anymore. Still, I screenshotted it and forwarded it to Jessica. She replied with a single thumbs-up emoji. Sometimes silence is the loudest boundary. A week later, a mutual friend texted me a screenshot from a dating app. Harold, 29. Entrepreneur. Looking for someone loyal who values communication. His profile photo was old US at a lake cropped so only he remained. I stared at it for a while, not with anger, but with a strange kind of detachment. The way you might look at an old house you once lived in, grateful for the roof. It gave you aware of the leaks you ignored. That night, I took myself to dinner. Alone, but not lonely. I ordered wine I didn't have to justify, laughed with the waiter about dessert sizes, and toasted quietly to the mirror across from me. To new beginnings, I whispered, and to dodging bullets dressed as soulmates. I don't believe in revenge anymore. It's just another way to stay tethered. I believe in records, in truth, in reconstruction. So here's mine. If you ever find yourself next to someone who says, I love you, but I'm not happy, don't panic. Listen, because sometimes that's not a confession. It's a warning. And when you hear it, remember this. Life is too short to be unhappy, but it's also too short to be someone else's placeholder while they rehearse their next act. My name is Brianna Williams, 29, survivor of